Hey guys, Danny here. Today I'm taking a look at another drone. This drone was sent to me for review. If you'd like to pick it up, I'll put a link down in the description for you. Now this drone is from Amazon. Now they quite often are rebrands of other drones, so that may well be the case, but I don't know if this is or not. It does come with 2 extra batteries, which is something I noticed that you get a lot of with these repackaged drones, which is really nice. Now the design of this is pretty cool. It is quite light in the hand. It doesn't feel too cheap. For its price point, I think it's okay. There is a camera on the bottom. It does have quite large props as well. Now the camera on the bottom is adjustable manually. You can move it with your hand. I did forget to do this, but yes, you can move it. The drone does also have altitude hold. Unfortunately, it doesn't have optical flow positioning, which I think it should have for the price that it's at, but it doesn't. You also have some little grooves on the bottom that you can attach some legs to, which I'll show you later on. And the camera at the bottom, you can also insert a micro SD card for filming directly to that. There is also a little on and off switch on the side here, which is nice to have. Now this drone isn't foldable, as you'll notice. I do always prefer foldable drones where possible. I don't think I've seen this style of controller before, but I do find it quite interesting. The bright blue buttons and the matte black finish, and it's also quite smooth, which just kind of feels cool in the hand. The built-in phone holder is really nice and sturdy. I always prefer this style because you don't have to carry any extra parts. The buttons are also labelled, so they're quite easy to remember. The controller does also take 3 AAA batteries. It has a little blue pin on the back that you have to push down to open this compartment, which I discovered later. The landing feet simply push into place, and then there are some screws that you screw in to keep these nice and sturdy. I don't really prefer this design because it takes up more space if you're carrying this in something like a backpack, so a foldable drone is definitely my preference, but this shouldn't really cause you any major problems if you're just flying this somewhere close by to you and you don't have to take it too far. It will fit in a pretty small rucksack, but it just takes up quite a bit of space. As standard, you also get 4 spare props. You get an extra battery, a charging cable, a little screwdriver and some spare screws. You also get these little toppers that go on top of the props. The battery compartment is underneath the camera. To open it, you simply slide the compartment back and it has a little latch and it opens up, so you can see the battery inside. Now, as I said, you do get 2 batteries for this drone, which is really cool. I wish all manufacturers would do this. It does add a little bit of extra cost, but having that second battery just increases your chance of having more fun because you can be out in the field for longer, and quite often one battery just isn't quite enough to have the fun that you want. The battery in use is a 550 mAh battery and should supposedly give us about a 9-minute flight time. And of course, onto the flight test. Now I do need to mention that it was really windy on this particular day that I tested this drone. Being a small toy grade drone, it really isn't the ideal conditions to test it in, but it did give me a really good idea of the rates that it has and how maneuverable it is, and there it fared really well. You can see most of the time I'm having to go full tilt into the wind just to keep the drone stable. I put it on the highest rates. It has 3 different settings, and on the highest setting this thing really can maneuver pretty rapidly. It does have some nice acceleration too. One thing I did immediately notice is the Wi-Fi FPV feed was pretty choppy, definitely below average, and you'll see in the bottom left it keeps cutting out, which really isn't ideal. Hopefully the footage that's saved to the micro SD card doesn't have any of these problems. That definitely was the weakest point for me. The drone is also capable of performing some pretty cool flips. Now it was hard to test how stable these are as the wind was so high, but even with the high wind I was able to pull them off. I just had to quickly regain control and bring the drone back towards me. The app that this drone uses seemed pretty solid. I didn't have any crashes or any problems to report, so that was a plus. I didn't do any specific range tests, but I was able to take the drone quite a distance away from me and I had pretty good control. I did occasionally seem to have a slight input delay. I don't really know what was causing this, but it was so far and few between that it wasn't really an issue. Here is some footage that I pulled from the micro SD card, which you insert into the camera module. Now you'll notice that there is skipping in here, which really shouldn't be happening. You will get this sometimes if you are recording directly to your smartphone, as you do get breakup from the Wi-Fi FPV feed, but if you're recording directly to a micro SD you shouldn't have this issue, so I'm not sure why this is happening. It could be a issue with write speed to the micro SD card. However, this is a class 10 card, so that shouldn't be an issue, or sometimes the drone manufacturers can have issues with certain format cards, but again I don't really think this should be happening. The actual quality of the camera is below average. I would have liked a bit better for the price point that this drone is at, and you have to bear in mind that it was a really windy day, so I'm not able to show this camera in its best light because, as you'll see, it's really difficult for me to keep it stable, so the shot's kind of all over the place. But the camera isn't horrendous, it's just definitely below average for me, and I don't think this is a great camera drone, but it's not bad if it's something you're just going to play around with. Now, should you buy this drone? Well, that depends on a few things. I think that it is a little bit pricey for what you get. It is nice that you get an extra battery which will allow you to get a better flight time. I got about a 7 to 8 minute flight time, which isn't too bad, and of course you've got that second battery that you can utilize. Now, the fact that this drone doesn't have optical flow positioning is a little bit of a bummer because it will not be as easy to use for beginners, but if you're someone who has a little bit more experience, or you fly this on a day where it isn't very windy, you shouldn't have really any problems. Like I didn't. I was able to fly in this pretty high wind, and because of its 3 different rates, the highest being quite maneuverable, I didn't have any issues. So if you'd like to pick up this drone, guys, there isn't any major issues with it. I just think there are some slightly better options out there, and I'll put a link down in the description if you'd like to pick it up. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing for more videos like this one, and of course I will see you in the next one.